Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Adam's Fall. Thank you for all your comments and support. And I wanted to review this video between John Vervaeke, who I've talked about a fair amount already. He's a University of Toronto cognitive scientist and a philosopher, and really has been instrumental in bringing new ideas to my cognitive consciousness. And on this video, he actually has somebody that when I saw this, I was like, whoa, I know this person. Having spent a lot of time in ex-Mormon spaces, the person he had on, surprisingly, was Britt Hartley, who is somewhat prominent in the atheist space in ex-Mormonism. So that was an unlikely convergence. And it was an interesting conversation, goes into a little bit of her history and what she does. And interestingly, Britt Hartley has been on the Ex-Mormon podcast, Mormon Stories, and other places within that sphere, and calls herself an atheist spiritual director, which is a little exercise in cognitive dissonance for me at least. So I wanted to really focus on what the meaning of faith is in this video. We'll take a short clip, see what her introduction is, and I'll probably comment on that, plus her use of the word faith, and then we'll tag along with that. So without further ado, let's jump right in.
And when I found somebody of such high caliber, I was very excited. So enough from me. I want to turn things over to Britt. I want Britt. So Britt, take some time, tell us some of your story, how you tell us a little bit more about your channel, that sort of thing. And just set us all up. Give us the context.
Yeah. I'll do it briefly and then just kind of dive in with wherever you want to go with that. So my name's Britt Hartley. I'm over here at No Nonsense Spirituality, and I'm an atheist spiritual director is my title.
And this part's always a little funny to me when I've known her channel and come across it before when she says no nonsense. You know, that's a tough one, because is she the one that has all the sense, has all the knowledge? What is sense? What is nonsense? How do you decipher what's nonsense? There's many different ways. I'm assuming she's saying no nonsense spirituality. From what I've seen from her videos, means that getting rid of all the nonsense of religion. Of course, religion's very complicated, and a lot of the quote nonsense has a deeper purpose, such as it can give us practical things that we do in our life that actually do make sense. They may be built around myths in some cases or stories, but the stories themselves have a practical element that may in fact be very sensical and may be borne out in science. So the no nonsense spirituality, and then of course that assumes that she is from her plane has arrived at the sense, arrived at the truth. And so right from the get-go, I think I would be myself exercising a little more epistemic humility from my own standpoint about, have I made sense of all of the world? And so interesting that her podcast is called that.
I have a master's degree in theology. And I'm also an ordained Sufi. I'm part of a Sufi order. So already that's like quite confusing for people. And one of the reasons I title myself an atheist spiritual director is it's paradoxical enough that usually people will kind of ask what that means, and that gives me a chance to explain myself, because words are very difficult in this space. But essentially, I was raised Mormon, had kind of a classic Mormon faith crisis when I was younger, figured I had the wrong religion, went into Christian theology school. And like so many who go into theology school, lost my faith in God in theology school, which is not very abnormal which sounds strange, but it's a very common thing that happens.
And, this part of the story I do share with Britt a little bit. I actually lost faith in God and Christianity first, and then lost my faith in the LDS religion. And much like her, she doesn't fill in too much of the story here, but she, of course, you end up in new atheists or atheist circles, and you become to see as religion as pure nonsense, and then you kind of go from there. So some of my story is similar to hers in that I went down a similar trajectory, although I came to see with new eyes religion and the powerful ways it can practically be of value in our lives. And there's many deep things, beauty, truth, wisdom in religion that I hadn't seen before. And so I think that's something missing from the equation. But I know she's not ignorant of these things. So let's continue to see how she uses language here about other parts of religion.
And for me, what that meant is a full trip straight into the void of nihilism. And because a lot of that, looking back, was really because religion and having my brain really be formed in religion kind of created this foundation where when it crashed, I just had nothing. I
Right.
had no resources or no perspective shifts in order to kind of be able to navigate in nihilism. So I spent about
And I also experienced this. Of course, the LDS faith is very high on meaning and purpose. You kind of know where you're from, what you're doing, where you're going, how to connect with other people. You have a community, you have rituals, you have sacrifices, so to speak, and all this is built for you. And when you lose that, of course, that purpose and meaning is gone, and then it's very difficult to reestablish that sort of purpose, especially in a world where you think that there's nothing afterwards. You know, how do you build your own purpose when life simply ends? So this, I did spend a fair amount, well, many years in the same context, the same universe as she's speaking of here.
2 years in what I would call pessimistic suicidal nihilism. I mean, very dangerous, very philosophical, and a lot of it was, looking for truth, but then not being able to find anything like objective truth, and my brain not knowing what to do with that. And then over time, I was able to.
This I also experienced in that when I went looking for truth, one of the avenues I went was looking through science. Myself, I do have a doctorate degree, and when you look for science for answers, of course, science is not an answer. Science is merely a method, and science is all any scientific discovery is also open to being revised or changed or discarded later. So there is no quote objective truth that you're finding in science. You're only refining what you know through a method. And so I also lost faith in finding objective truth. But does that mean that there is no ability to find objective truth? That is an entirely different question. Maybe through science it's going to be pretty difficult, but maybe through other means it is possible.
Find tools for how I could shift my perspective. And I wish I would have found your work earlier, John, and we can talk about that more. But I kind of intuitively made this shift into life instead of being based on things like capital T truth, life from the point of view of experience. And what would it be like to build a life on experience, even knowing that it ends? And then I went to a spiritual direction program with the Center of Non-Religious Spirituality, where I could kind of hone in this skill, which I do now and which I'm known for, which is what is the tool of religion that can help us with things like nihilism without wrapping faith or dogma around it. And so that's the.
Yeah, and this is the main highlight of the video I want to cover is she says that she wants to take the tools, the pragmatic things that religion gives you, without attaching any dogma or faith in it. And my question for her and for any atheist or any person, is it possible to do such a thing? Of course, the tools themselves become dogmas. They are things that you test. You arrive at propositions. You arrive at things you think you should do, and then they, of course, become dogmas. Things like meditation or fasting or prayer or other things that you can test. If you quote unquote validate these things, then they become dogmas. They become things that you incorporate in your no-nonsense spirituality. They become propositions that you adhere by. So my question for her would be, really, can you propose a program where you do not have dogmas, you do not have things you're espousing as, quote, truths to some degree or another? And is it really possible to not have faith? I mean, I think the context, I don't know exactly how she's using faith, but I think she's probably using the sense of maybe a religious faith, like a particular religion, and characterizing this as faith. But of course, it's a tough thing with words. Words are difficult and they have many meanings. And so I actually brought up definition of faith, and this is in the Webster's Dictionary. And the number one definition is not a religious faith. It's actually an allegiance to duty or a person. So you can lose or have faith in a company's president, for example, they give. Fidelity to your promises, sincerity of intention, so acting in good faith. But it can be a belief or trust and loyalty to God. Of course, that is one definition, like a traditional doctrine of a religion. But it also can be firm belief or something for which there is no proof, complete trust, and something that is believed especially with strong conviction. And I would say that Britt is actually demonstrating faith in this video very early on. She's saying, even though there is life, not after death, and she espouses atheism. Of course, there is no proof that these things are true. And she acts in videos I've seen in complete faith and trust that these are in fact true. And that is faith. It may not be faith in a traditional religion, but she is exercising faith. Could also ask, does she have faith that the plumber is going to fix the problem when she has it? Does she have faith that her house isn't going to fall down when she has it built? Does she have faith in the airline pilot when she's flying a plane? Or is she sitting there wondering, does this person know how to fly the whole time? Of course, faith is very highly associated with trust. Complete trust is what we see in the definition here. So we are continuously acting throughout the day. We are getting things provided for us. We are trusting in various scientific theories and in engineering and our vehicles and all sorts of things. Have we developed almost complete trust or complete trust in? And I'd say she is exercising complete trust in her atheist model. Has she not just traded one particular faith for another particular faith? I would intimate that she is. She is trading one faith for another faith. And so this is one of my issues with atheism often, or when people talk about faith, they act like they're either living in truth, they somehow have come to all truth and understanding and all science, and they are somehow rationally living out each day, thinking about every rational proposition, every scientific theory, and deciding what to do, including how to put on their clothes and what to do in their job or vocation or in their life or their hobbies, or they're living like religious nutcases, supposedly, and in nonsense. So what I wanted to give you is just a quick thought and meditation a little bit on what is faith. Is it possible for Britt to live without faith? No, of course not, would be my opinion. She is living in faith. She just has faith in different things. She's put different things at the top of her hierarchy. And can she live without propositions, without dogmas? I would assure you that she cannot. She definitely has things she lives by that have become dogmas for her. And when she proposes a program for people, I presume there are things that she is promoting. And that's all for this video, though. I thank you very much. I hope for some comments and feedback. I really appreciate those. If you want to subscribe, please do so. Thank you.